I'm Adam Abbott-Ball. I'm Lieutenant Commander here in NOAA.
So tell me again how long you've been flying.
Yeah, I've been flying a total of almost 14 years. Out of the Navy in 2005, flew there for 9.5 years before my transition to NOAA.
So specifically with the P3, how long have you been flying the P3?
The P3, about that same amount of time, 06 to right about now, 19. So I have an extensive amount of experience in the plane, 13, almost 14 years in the plane, and quite a bit of hours.
Yeah, which is good.
It is good.
You want hours.
It's good. You feel, going into that environment, you want to be as comfortable as you can in the plane, so that certainly helps.
Right. So the viewers sitting here thinking, these are monster storms off the coast. What's your favorite part about flying into a hurricane?
Certainly, a hurricane, as everyone can imagine, is the most dynamic flight experience you can get in the atmosphere. It really is. So it is simultaneously the most exciting flight you can have and sort of the most terrifying flight you can have almost at the same time, which makes it a really fun experience. You put a lot of trust in the plane, the crew, your experience and your skill set, and know that you're not the first person to go do this.
Right.
And so you put a lot of faith in the work that's come with everyone before you, and makes that experience, that excitement build and just that much more fun and palpable each flight. Every single flight is different, and the moment you get complacent about it is the moment you need to think about doing something else, because every single storm presents differently, and so you get to see a variety of atmospheric conditions, a variety of storm conditions and flight conditions. It's really exciting.
So hurricane, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
And even a tropical storm, you know, we don't even need to talk about a Cat 5, but just a tropical storm. But what makes the P3 so suited to be able to perform these missions?
The P3 is great. It's a 4-engine turboprop aircraft. Turboprops, they have almost instantaneous thrust. So if you can see some of the internal shots of the flight deck or the flight station, you'll see our flight engineer constantly moving the power levers back and forth. And that's to help us keep us on flight parameters in the storm. And we have certain parameters that we try to attain during the storm that's safest to envelope a flight for the aircraft. Mm-hmm. And so being able to jockey those power levers nonstop and get that instantaneous thrust or power out of the aircraft is really one of the big advantages. The other, it's a really hardened aircraft. It was built, engineered in the 50s and 60s, built for us in the late 70s. It's a hardened aircraft. It's built like a tank. It does really well in the storm environment. And it's hardy. It's a little beefier plane. It's heavier. It contains, as you can see, just a lot of equipment. And we got brand new wings on it recently, which really helps extend the service life of the aircraft. And so it's well suited for that environment, for the storm environment.
Tell me a little bit about the upgrades that were just performed.
So there are too many upgrades to even mention. I won't even start with the performance of the systems upgrade and the science systems and mission systems. Those are various and ongoing. Mm-hmm. The aircraft itself has recently undergone brand new engine upgrades. So we are one of the only operators that are flying with what's called a 3.5 engine. So it gives us better performance at a lower fuel economy, mm-hmm. Which really helps us in the storm environment and extend our endurance in the storms. Also, we got brand new wings on the plane. So they took off the old wings, strapped on some brand new wings, so that extends the service life of the aircraft. And so overall, the plane has got some really substantial upgrades in the middle of its service life here to help carry us through to about 2030.
So when people hear, I mean, this plane's from the 70s, you know, commissioned in the 70s, help me understand how that's kind of irrelevant to the capabilities of this aircraft.
The main part is you want the storm to be survivable, right? It's a hardened kind of piece of equipment that you want to get in and out. This plane was built to fly at 200 feet over the ocean for the Navy as a sub-hunter. That was its original mission. It was going to see tons of sea salt aerosol spray. It was going to see lots of transit to and from locations, lots of landings. It was built for that rugged environment. And so we've kind of transferred that integral part of the aircraft into making it work for ourselves. Mm-hmm. And these were custom built for us. These are WP3Ds. So these were custom built for us from Lockheed just to help us concentrate on our mission of flying through hurricanes.
So for what they were built for in the 70s, it's only gotten better since then. It's not like the shelf life is worn out and it's time to think about a new plane.
No, that's absolutely correct. I mean, we look around and try to figure out what could be better platform for this right now. And and we just love this plane. We know what it can do. We know what its capabilities are. And we haven't found very many limiting factors that have really challenged us to say, we need to find something better. Right now, this is the best we can do. This is the best we can find, and we're incredibly happy with the aircraft, its performance, everything it's done for us, and its capabilities, both now and scalable into the future.
So this one behind you is about ready to go into its first season after its upgrades.
That's true. That's true. This one just got back from Jacksonville. I actually brought it back from Jacksonville with the brand new wings on it. I believe it made one flight just from Jacksonville to here. And we immediately put it down, meaning we put it in the hangar and started all of the significant mission systems upgrade that I'm sure you'll hear about and talk about later. But new radars in both the tail and underneath, new mission systems inside, video distribution systems. We're even changing the engine instrument display panel. So we're going from the old steam gauges to basically a glass cockpit. So it's all going to be kind of digital presentation to the pilots. So this plane's going to emerge almost brand new for all of us. It's going to be kind of fun and exciting.
Yeah, it's like flying a brand new car, but like you mentioned before, it's still the tried and true aircraft that has flown for decades.
That's it. And of course, you see Miss Piggy here on the side, so we know, we have a little comfort knowing that we're back with Miss Piggy, and we got Kermit over there, so it's great.
Tell me a little bit about that, because that's a fun thing. Miss Piggy, Kermit, and Gonzo, of course, as well, but with the P3s, Miss Piggy and Kermit.
Yeah, and so some of the older folks might be easier or better to answer this question, but lore has it that the planes before, they used to kind of be bifurcated on crews. So you'd have one crew on Piggy, one crew on Kermit, and they had kind of a competition of who could keep the plane the nicest, who could fly the better storm or get in the storm, get the better data. And so as the story goes, one of the plane captains kept calling the other one a pigsty, and so he aptly named it Miss Piggy. They started calling it that colloquially, and then turned out that Jim Henson was very kind enough and eager enough to license us the names and the monikers, and it's been that way ever since. So we use them, and it kind of identifies the planes a little better, both for ourselves and the public. It gives it a little persona, which is fun. And when you go inside, even the power levers will be either coated green or pink, just to give it a little more flair for the plane's fun.
So you haven't flown Miss Piggy, or have?
I've flown Miss Piggy. Yeah,
Okay.
It's been quite a while. I think it's been nearly 4 years or so since we've had both planes operational at the same time. It's either 2014 or 2015. I'd have to go look, but it's been a while since we've had two aircraft available for a storm season. So this will be a reintroduction for the whole center for all of our crewing needs on being able to capture that new capability with both planes again.
So will you, in a season, will you go back and forth and sometimes fly Miss Piggy, or do you stick with one aircraft?
Yeah, so we are not assigned to the aircraft. We're assigned to a schedule, basically. And so based on what plane is available, what plane just flew, the fueling needs of the field, being able to get fuel on, and which aircraft are up or down based on some maintenance procedures, we'll take whatever aircraft is available. So it's really indifferent to us as the crew.
Right.
Many times, to be honest with you, I won't even notice what plane I'm flying, if it's Piggy or Kermit. So
Right.
to us, they both have they're both very similar, if not identical, to fly. So
What would be something that, you know, we fly into a hurricane, you think, all right, you know, yeah, it's going to be what you might expect, turbulent. There's going to be a lot of rain. What's something that would surprise me or the general public about flying into a hurricane?
that's a good question, because overwhelmingly, right, that's the number one question we get. What is it like to fly in a hurricane? And you get a lot of people want to hear that expected response, like you just mentioned. It's going to be turbulent. It's going to be a lot of rain. It's going to be a little violent inside. Well, what's interesting is that, as you know, as a meteorologist, the storm is banded. So you can go through convective bands that are really pretty aggressive, and then you will go through a period of stratus clouds or stratiform rain where it's relatively, for hurricane's sake, calm, where you're not getting bounced around too much. You might have an opportunity to be able to just talk to each other and maybe even get up and go to the restroom for a couple minutes before you hit the next band.
So are you like in that stratus cloud cover where it's relatively calm? I mean, are you like taking a breath?
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. we look forward to those times where it might calm down for a minute or two. And most of our legs that we fly are, up to 120-mile radius from the center. So covering that amount of distance, you figure to go all the way across the storm as we kind of cut it up in a pie shape, each one of those legs is nearly an hour, right? From the eastern portion of one end to the western portion of one end of the storm. And we fly it almost a straight line. So that's almost an hour before we start to circumnavigate the outside and then pick a new line to fly through. So that hour can be filled with really intense periods, and then there's some periods, especially the eye, and the eye is really dramatic inside. It's beautiful. On a really well-defined mature storm, the eye is a really neat atmospheric and meteorological feature. It's really cool. And so we all look forward to getting there on a mature storm, getting to take in that view, getting to appreciate what we've just done, and then immediately getting ready to go back through the eye wall.
It's kind of like climbing a mountain, I would imagine. Like you work hard, you get to the top of the mountain, and you're there, you enjoy the view, and then you gotta do it again.
Yeah, very similar, I imagine. I haven't done that, climbed a mountain,
Sure,
but
sure.
I totally can see the similarities there. So yeah, I think it's probably very similar to that, and that site has not gotten old for anybody that I know flying within the flight station. We've got guys who've been doing this 25, 30 years. Every time we get to the eye, it is still just a majestic kind of picture to behold, and people really enjoy seeing that.
So take me there. What's it like when you walk, or when you penetrate that eye and you're or the eye wall and you're in the eye? What are you seeing?
Yeah, so immediately you'll break out, and it's very distinct from really intense rain and turbulence to nearly calm, no rain, no turbulence, and all of a sudden you'll start to see the sun shining through, because on a well-defined eye, and we've seen some as tight as 8 nautical miles to as wide as 30 nautical miles in diameter. So the size varies, which determines how much time you actually have in the storm, or in the eye rather. But when you're in there, it is just like they say. It's almost this kind of cone or cylinder of calm air, clear all the way as high as you can see. You can see the sun. The interesting part is when you look down at the surface of the ocean, that part of the storm has just walked over it or just rolled over it, and it looks like the water's boiling because it's just so active from the eye wall passing through.
But yet it's calm and sunny.
It's calm and sunny inside. It's beautiful. We call it the stadium effect because you can kind of see the walls build up, and they'll go up to 55,000 feet sometimes on really mature storms. So it's a beautiful sight to see. Again, hasn't gotten old. We love to be able to get in the eye, check it out, and the pilots unfortunately only get a couple seconds maybe to enjoy it before we have to start maneuvering, find the zero wind center, and then formulate our way out for the egress. So.
Because even when you penetrate that eye wall, you've still got a mission to accomplish. You don't have a chance. I mean, you said a couple of seconds, but your mission, the reason you go into the center is
you're hunting storm center, right? You're hunting the zero wind center, the lowest pressure, and so that is not always symmetric in the middle of the eye. It can be tucked up against one of the eye walls, and so our flight director, who's our onboard meteorologist, he's directing the pilots, turn here, turn here, turn here, to direct us towards that wind field to help us identify the center of the storm, which is what we report to the National Hurricane Center for track.
I liked what you said, how you're hunting the center. You know, you guys are the NOAA Hurricane Hunters. Right. So there is a literal part about that. You guys are hunting the storm.
That's absolutely right, and we call it that. As soon as we break through the eye wall, they say, okay, let's go hunt, and so we'll go hunt for center. And our center for us is that zero wind field at altitude.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. So, okay, you've got family, wife, parents, kids?
Kids.
Okay. So do you ever take a second and maybe you did it in the beginning and it's just kind of become old hat, but do you ever take a step back and go, holy crap, I fly into some of the most destructive, beasts of nature. What's that thought?
Honestly, I guess I don't really register those two things. All of us here, I think, treat it as a job. We're exceptionally professional at coming in here, and aviators, more than probably most people, are really good at compartmentalizing. And so, honestly, when I get to the bottom of the ladder, the rest of the world shuts off, as I think most of my crew members are, and then we climb the ladder, and it's off to our day at the office. The only time I get to reflect on is when I get asked questions about it, and then I get to think, yeah, it's kind of neat, it's kind of fun. So I enjoy that part. My kids are pretty young, so I don't think they really recognize that. They just like to come to the hangar and climb on the planes, so yeah.
But it's probably good that you are able to compartmentalize that. I mean, you get in, you got to do a job.
Yeah, that's just it. I mean, we all have our stresses in life, like everybody else, and so, but you cannot bring that on a plane, especially in that environment that I've talked about. It is such a dynamic environment. Things are changing at such a rapid pace. The missions are filled with data collection requirements and science objectives. So there's no time to kind of take a moment for yourself or take a moment for anything else that's outside the plane. You've got a commitment to not only your crew to keep everybody safe, but to the people. You're out there to protect life and property, and that's what you do, and that's what everyone climbs on that plane to do. And they know that going into that, every time they step on the ladder, I mean, that's their main focus, and it feels good, it's rewarding to be able to give back to the community like that.
Are you ever aware of the state of the storm as you're flying into it, whether it's strengthening or weakening? And if so, do you notice a difference in the flight conditions?
So we will get a briefing, and we get a pre-briefing about 2 hours prior to takeoff, and we'll get the latest conditions on the storm. Mm-hmm. And those are based off of either a previous aircraft's flight through the storm, in which they've given us the latest conditions, or a buoy that it just traveled over the ocean, or meteorologist's forecast. So it helps give us an idea. Many times it's correct. Sometimes we find that it's not correct. Either the storm is strengthening or worsening. We see that on storms that we classify as rapid intensifying, or RI, and I'm sure our flight director, Mike Holmes, has talked about that. And so sometimes it is a lot different of an environment than we expect. Sometimes it's pleasantly different, where it's not as bad and the storm may be decaying a little bit. The turbulence that we get, that's very anecdotal, and we get that from the last crew. Hey, how was the ride? We usually don't get a turbulence indication necessarily from, believe it or not, the intensity of the storm. So we've been through Cat 4s that have been fairly benign, believe it or not. And we've been through tropical storms that can be more aggressive than a Cat 4 or a Cat 3 even. So we'll get a lot of that insider knowledge from the previous crew that flew through it, and say, hey, how was your ride? Where did you see where was the worst quadrant? Where did you guys expect to hit the worst turbulence? Which part of the eye wall was worse? Is it a fully closed eye wall? And so based on the previous crew's experience, the National Hurricane Center's information, our flight director's briefing, we have a pretty comprehensive idea of what we're about to get into. And so that helps. And then the other thing too is, if the transit is long, it could be up to an hour or two in the transit to get to the storm, we get updated information through the internet on our plane, through satellite communication. So it helps us prepare as best we can.
So you might know, I mean, if it's a 3-hour flight just to get to the storm, something may have changed in that just flight to get there.
Absolutely. We may have seen, National Hurricane Center may have picked up on some indications that the shear is picking up, or the intensity is picking up, or maybe the eye wall is starting to close a little tighter. So we absolutely can get updates, real-time live updates, as we transit to the storm we're about to collect data on. So.